Hello everyone, hope you're well. New year, so my last video was talked a little bit about the next book I've got coming out, hopefully around about May. So this is the first in a series of kind of character spotlights which I want to do about the forthcoming book, just to sort of whet people's appetites a little bit of a teaser, talk a little bit about the characters themselves without obviously spoiling too much. So in this episode we are talking about Drobar Tugaul, the King of Sol. I managed to do this artist's impression, just to kind of give you a bit of a flavour of what you can expect. And I suppose the first thing to say about Drobar is unashamedly he's a barbarian, because why not? He is the king of the barbarians, and I think when I set about sort of creating Drobar, his family, the people he lives with, and you know his people in general, I decided to look at barbarians. I think drawing on probably experiences with playing D&D, barbarians in general throughout kind of popular culture, what they're known as. And of course, instantly, when you think of barbarians, you know, very, very big, sort of 7 feet tall, 7 feet wide, you know, carries an axe, beard, you know, that kind of stuff. It's very much something that I wanted to do, and draw upon existing tropes and stereotypes. And I don't make any apologies for that, because the whole reason behind it was that I didn't want to get in the way of exploring the character. The person itself is far more interesting to me than the fact that he has a golden axe and he's sort of covered in animal pelts and he's a barbarian. Yes, the barbarians in the story are moderately important to the plot, and that's kind of hopefully you'll understand eventually why I picked them. But in the case of Drobar, I wanted a figurehead that drew on kind of Norse, you know, Viking mythology, that kind of thing, and I didn't want to do anything special with that. Why mess with it? People are going to always conjure up their own images of how they might want that to work, and I think it was very important to kind of not interfere with that necessarily, not do anything special with it. I wanted the focus to be the character, the person, underneath those animal pelts and behind that sort of that blonde hair and blue eye kind of facade, and the person who wears the crown. So Drobar as the King of Sol, the King of the Barbarians, again drawing on some of the mythology around what you might think, how you might think barbarians might live, is very much taking from kind of Norse and Viking mythologies around clans. So they are divided into 7 clans named after the days of the week. So we've got Mondag, Torsdag, etc. So, you know, it felt quite easy to kind of create that, but it was important to have clans that are distinct from each other, because that does kind of come into play a little bit in the story. Drobar is someone who is, despite appearances to the contrary, lacking in a bit of fortitude, a bit of self-confidence and self-belief. So he ascended to the throne after the death of his father, King Ulfric, during the Battle of the Blood Moon. And, you know, uneasy wears the crown, basically. He's very, very unsure of himself. He's tried his best, but he is very much caught in the middle of something. And the story begins very much in the midst of crucial peace talks between the barbarians and an implacable foe of theirs called the Dune. Now, the Dune, I won't give too much away, we'll come on to the Dune in later videos, but they are kind of blood enemies. And I think I wanted to weave through, especially with barbarians and that kind of warrior caste that you see from from what I've written and from this image and things like that, very much honour is a huge deal. Being a warrior, holding yourself to a certain set of principles and ideals, trying to live up to those, relishing the battle, the kill, the hunt, those kinds of things. A huge magnitude of things for me to draw upon to set the scene, which is kind of what we do, and indeed with the book actually picks up. For those of you who've read book one, you'll find a little treat at the end of book one where you can click on a link and sign up to the newsletter, and you'll actually get the kind of alpha draft of chapter one of the next book. And chapter one opens during a bear hunt that Drobar is on with his brother Vekel. So that was kind of quite straightforward to kind of set up that kind of barbarian life in general. They're hunting a bear for glory, for honour, to hone their skills, the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the chase, that kind of thing. But ultimately, Drobar is deeply troubled. He's expected as the king to sign a peace treaty that many amongst his people want with the Dune, a treaty that is being pushed from the capital, and he is uneasy about it because part of the treaty includes land that they would have to cede to the Dune where their father is buried. So for him, it's about trying to honour the memory of his father and trying to live up to the expectations of his people as king to do right by them. He doesn't want to hold them back. He wants to march into a brave future with his people. But his ties of blood to his father, his memory of his father, the dishonour potentially of signing over land where his father is buried, it's sacred ground to him, sacred ground to his people, certainly to his clan. But at the same time, the vultures are circling. Other clans with their own vested interests in seeing this peace deal go through are desperate for him to sign. And the longer that it drags on, the less faith they have in him as a ruler. Which is troublesome because he already has so little faith in himself as a ruler too. So it's a very fractious situation. He faces opposition to what he's doing from multiple sides, not least of which his own brother, who doesn't want to have anything to do with the Dune, sees them as mortal enemies, and is fiercely opposed to the peace treaty. He feels that it would dilute his people, that they would become weaker as a result of it, that they are born for battle. And he doesn't want his brother to sign it. And yet, on the other hand, you have the other clan leaders, some more vocal than others, clamouring for him to sign this peace treaty. All the while, the capital is waiting with bated breath, and promises of a seat on the Council of Elders for both the barbarians and the Dune, should they sign up, allowing them to suddenly have a say in the affairs of millions across the entire Western Peninsula. So it's a very tantalising prospect to grasp at this peace treaty. But all is not as it seems. Shock. So what better to do in such a fractious, fragile situation than introduce a violent darkling and his strange red friend. And chaos ensues, as you might imagine. So for Drobar, this is not only a challenge, but also a happening across two individuals who are such an odd pairing, with an even more fantastical tale of where they've been and what's happened to them. If you've read book one, I'm sure you'll understand. Certainly not your everyday trip down to the supermarket. So he has trouble getting his head around that, while all of this peace treaty stuff is going on anyway, and he's struggling between the battle between his heart and his head. He now also has to deal with a couple of trespassers on his land. So yeah, that's Drobar. Very honor driven, very duty bound, very aware of the weight of responsibility. But his mother died years ago when he was younger. His father died in battle, and he was kind of thrust into this position, and now really struggles to live up to the reputation, live up to the ideals of what a king should do for his people. Certainly, a fairly accomplished warrior, sheer strength more than anything else will see him win almost all of the time. But there's a vulnerability to him, I think, which I was keen to kind of introduce, an uncertainty that guides him that he struggles with a lot, and the pressure from outside doesn't help either. So yeah, it was just a quick video really to kind of start to whet the appetite really for characters in the books. There are a few others I'm going to go through in the coming weeks who are also part of the barbarian people, who also have their own vested interests, who want to see the peace treaty succeed or fail for various reasons. Again, trying not to spoil it too much. And of course, there are also plenty of things going on in the capital, because as we learnt at the end of book one, Emmett Krell was summoned back to the capital by Vadalum Greyguard, by the Elder, to explain his handling and answer for his handling of the whole Varicel situation in book one, his whole handling of Fen and Eleanor and all the other stuff that came along with it. So there's plenty of stuff to get your teeth stuck into there as well. And the other thing to say, of course, that in book two we do progress Fen's backstory a bit. So we look in at what he's doing as he grew up back home in Umber, in the Other, as they call it. By the time we meet him, he's kind of 15, 16 years old. He's in school of Cormagus, where he's doing very well, holding his own, when suddenly there's a call to arms, and he's asked to go and fight. He's considered to be old enough and powerful enough to be of fighting age, to be of use. So we start to explore what happens when he's thrust into that kind of situation, and how it helps to impact his view of his home, his family, and ultimately what he wants to do with it. So yeah, lots to look forward to. I think next time we're going to be looking a little bit more at Drobar's. I keep getting my hands the wrong way around. That's it. I'll get used to this whole camera thing eventually, but that's what him. We'll be looking at Drobar's brother, Vakal, next time, who is a completely different kettle of fish, as you might imagine. So that was it. Just a quick video. Hopefully that sort of whets people's appetites a little bit, and you start to start to pull together a little bit of an idea of what this book's gonna focus on. As I said last time, whereas book one was about sort of identity and prejudice, this kind of explores the value of peace and how you have to fight for it, but only for the right reasons. In many ways, sometimes peace can be achieved, but for all the wrong reasons, and you have to question whether or not it's actually worth doing in the first place. If some of the motivations behind why that peace is needed are actually driven and derived from very selfish, dark places. So it's kind of exploring that and fairly prescient topic at the moment with everything that's going on in the world, which is bizarre really, given that I wrote the book about 4 years ago, but there we go. Anyway, thanks for your time as always. Don't forget to check out the website and subscribe to the YouTube channel. The next version of the newsletter is due out soon, so keep your eyes out for that. And if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter yet, please go to duncanwritesfiction.com, sign up, and you'll be the first to know of any new updates and forthcoming developments. So until then, take care, and I'll see you soon.